Good morning. Welcome everyone to another episode of Adda. And today we have Sana Hashmi, fellow at the Taiwan-Asia Exchange Foundation. Thank you for doing this, Ms. Hashmi. And as you are rightly placed and sitting at the heart of the South Asia geopolitics, I'll start away shoot the question. So what is the relevance of the Taiwan Strait? Over to you.
Thank you for having me on the platform. It's a pleasure. So Taiwan is definitely becoming more and more important, specifically in the past few years for a lot of countries in the world, but specifically for the countries who believe in this idea of the Indo-Pacific construct. For at least for the past 5 years, what we have realized is there's a growing realization that a Taiwan contingency will have an impact on countries near as well as far. So Taiwan under China's control is definitely going to be detrimental for like-minded countries such as the US, Japan, Australia, India, even countries from Europe as well. This is one of the major reasons why we keep seeing and why we keep hearing about Taiwan and China's growing aggression towards Taiwan. So there is this realization that the rule of law needs to be respected and the rules-based order needs to be ensured. And Taiwan has been a self-governing island, and it has its own governance, it has its own political system, and in fact, it is one of the most important economies in the world. So this is something, and also Taiwan is the home of majority of the production of chips, and it produces 90% of the high-end chips as well. So Taiwan's importance in terms of its economic significance as well as its strategic importance is very well known for countries such as India and as well as countries that have shared similar outlook and are facing similar challenges. Now, coming to India, I believe that India is also more and more realizing that Taiwan is very important, even though India has remained somewhat cautious with respect to talking about Taiwan publicly, specifically with respect to China. But since we have seen that how relationship between India and China have also deteriorated in the past few years, we are seeing this change of policy or a rethink in policy from India's side vis-a-vis Taiwan. So the idea that India has to respect China's red line has gone. And there's also this growing realization among Indian policymakers that engaging Taiwan is very important for India's several initiatives of, for example, self-reliant India, Make in India, Skill India. And in that context, Taiwan is identified as one of the most important countries in the region. So these are some of the reasons why Taiwan is so important for countries such as India and other like-minded countries in the Indo-Pacific region.
In light of the recent 3 former Indian chiefs visiting Taiwan, do you see a strategy coming up, or do you see a signal from the Indian side?
I don't really consider the visit of former chiefs to Taiwan as a way of signaling China, because first of all, that was a personal visit, and the 3 of them visited in their personal capacity. And second, I think Taiwan is too important for India to be used as a card against China or to just send signals to China. And as I also mentioned before, that how India is increasingly realizing that's very important for India to also engage Taiwan for various economic as well as strategic reasons. So this is something that India has been doing. And I think this cautious behavior of India that we do not have to engage Taiwan because it's going to provoke China and is going to jeopardize our relationship with China has gone. So I think this has kind of led to a change of policy or a kind of recalibrating of India's Taiwan policy. But India still doesn't have diplomatic relationship with Taiwan. But despite that, despite diplomatic constraint, what we are seeing is that there is growing engagement between India and Taiwan. And this is specifically since 2020, but of course the seeds have been sown even before how India's China relationship have changed since 2020. I think the relationship between India and Taiwan has been growing for a very long time, but of course there is a fresh vigor that has been injected to India-Taiwan relationship since 2020. So as I've already mentioned, that this entire idea and the change of policy that we're seeing from India's side is primarily because Taiwan has been seen as a very important potential economic partner. And it is, no matter what, even if we don't talk about Taiwan as an important component of the Indo-Pacific region, there is no denying that Taiwan is a very important part of the Indo-Pacific region. So this idea that countries need to save Taiwan is very much there. And India is also thinking on those lines. And talking about India's changing policy, I really don't mean to say that India is really trying to think of its role, military role in a potential Taiwan contingency. But what India is trying to do is a part of a collective voice to deter China from invading Taiwan. And I think this is what is more important when it comes to India's changing approach towards Taiwan and this growing engagement between India and Taiwan.
Thank you. That was very crisp, succinct, and honest reviews. Going forward, as we all agree that there's only growing synergies between India and Taiwan. Thank you, viewers, and we would come back with another such video. Stay tuned only on Adda. Thank you.